Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? So I kind of addressed this on my Peter Monn channel. And I said in that video that I had thought about doing a dedicated video over here about this topic. But that I thought that I should address it over there since it's typically over there that it occurs. But I got done with the video and I was uploading the video. My husband was sitting there, he was watching TV, eating some leftovers, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, you know, this has been such an important lesson in my life that this is something that I feel like I need to go into more depth about and to share, because if there's even just one person out there that can learn from maybe what I've gone through, to keep on like trudging through you know, getting to the other side of the pain and setting healthy limits and boundaries in their life and becoming new people and growing and changing. If just one person can hear this message and it can help just one person, because I think had I at the time that I was going through this, and you know, it's happened for many, many years, but when it started years ago, and I'm going to get to it in just a second what it is, but had I had somebody say to me, very similar things happened when I started setting limits and boundaries in my life, when I started trying to set healthy boundaries with people that brought toxicity into my life or chaos in my life or negativity or misery into my life. If I had had one person say that to me, I think that I wouldn't have personalized it as much or got in my head and second guessed the choices that I was making. So I was thinking about it and I thought, you know, I kind of, you know, explained it in my video, got a little heated about it in my Peter Monn video today, and I thought I want to make a dedicated video. And this is actually a video that I would probably make on my Peterisms channel, but because it's something that's so personal to me, I think that I'm going to address it over here. You know, from time to time on this channel, I do, you know, fun things like water talks and, you know, hauls, shopping hauls and things like that. But I also sometimes have very serious conversations over here. I've talked about my body dysmorphia and weight issues that I've had in my entire life. I've talked about my addiction and my recovery. I've talked about grieving the dogs, having lost the dogs and things like that. I've talked about grieving my mother's passing and things like that. And this is something that I think is important. And like I said, it's probably one of the most important lessons I've learned in my life. Okay, so what I want to talk about is the fact that this is my new era on YouTube, so to speak. And if you don't watch my other channels, let me give you just like a brief history of what's been going on. So for, I would say, the last four to 5 years, I have had many people out there that have harassed me and stalked me, okay? Both publicly and privately. And I'm not talking about just the run-of-the-mill trolls that don't like me. I totally understand that that goes along with being a YouTuber and sharing your life publicly and things like that. People questioning certain things you say and whatever. I'm not talking about that, okay? I'm talking about people going to such lengths, and you can go watch the videos because I've put it up on my Peter Monn channel. I put, I think, 2 videos talking about it now. I talked about it and then I did an update of what's happened afterwards, because I am pursuing this legally behind the scenes, and I do know who several of these people are at this point. And so, but I had been kind of living secretly about this and not really ever share anything publicly about it out of fear of what people would say or that it would get worse, you know? And in talking to my therapist and in talking to some other people, what they said to me was, well, this is kind of like indicative of when you were being bullied growing up, that you were afraid of confronting it because it would get worse. And that's always kind of been my fear, is that if I confront anything, or if I start setting healthy limits and boundaries for my life and say, okay, I'm done with this, like this is not going to happen anymore, or I'm not going to tolerate it, or if it does continue, I'm going to do something about it, that things get worse, you know, that the bullies get harder, and not bullies necessarily of today, but like bullies when I was growing up, you know, that was when, like, if I ever said anything or I stood up for myself, that they would, the numbers doubled of who it was, or, you know, instead of it happening every other day or every third day, it happened every day, right? And so I just learned to kind of you know, become immune to the situation. And I also learned to kind of keep my mouth shut, that the best way to kind of deal with all of this was to deal with bullying when I was growing up, was to keep my mouth shut, don't draw attention to myself, don't make an issue out of it, don't bring attention to what's going on, and then it'll just go away. And then their focus will be on somebody else, which would happen for like maybe a day or two, but then the focus would always come back on me. What I realized in looking back is that that really never worked. I think that to some degree, I kind of believed that that worked. I think because I don't really think I knew how bad it could get, and it was pretty bad. I mean, I've shared in my stories of talking about being bullied, that I dealt with physical and emotional bullying. I had people that sexually threatened me, people that followed me into my driveway where I had to run into my house. I mean, it was bad, you guys. Like, I mean, the bullying was not just like calling me names in high school. It was really bad, and it was 12 years of my life. And so I think that I just became so immune to it. And I think that that's kind of what I've done in my life a lot. You know, I've had, at several times of me being on YouTube, people say to me, I don't understand why you're not standing up for yourself. I don't understand why you're not explaining yourself in this situation or whatever. Like, you have a right to stand up for yourself. And my response is always kind of like, and you know, I do process it with my therapist or my sponsor or whatever, but my immediate response inside is, it'll just make it worse. Like, people will just make, they'll come for me harder, right? And so I don't want that. And that's at times even why, like, I don't block people that make it their mission to like literally come for me every single day on Twitter. I don't block them because I think if I block them, they'll come harder for me on other platforms, or they'll make my life more difficult and whatever, because people are always like, well, just block these people. Well, first of all, I can't block somebody that is, you know, trying to attempt to get my medical records, calling my vet, you know, on and on and on. I mean, there's been doxing my address, doxing places that I stay, hotels and Airbnbs, contacting hotels that I've stayed at before and ask if I'm staying there, asking what room I'm in, leaving messages for me. I mean, there's a lot of things I did not share in that video. There's so many things that have happened. Contacting my friends' places of employment, contacting the director of one of my best friends' places that she volunteers, emailing these places, contacting them, threatening to report them. I mean, on and on and on and on, you guys. Okay, and all of that was because we were boarding a 13-year-old dog that this person called elderly. And I still have the emails, and we're looking into tracking down that email address. So, many of these things I know, right? But I shared that in a video, okay? And after sharing that in a video, I felt like I'm no longer living in silence from this. Like, I no longer am hiding anymore. And, you know, I would watch other drama commentary channels that were kind of like shady or make sarcastic jokes for the years. And, you know, and when I would talk to some of them on the phone or whatever, you know, people would say, oh my God, you're so funny. Like, if you were like this in your videos, like, people would eat it up, right? And I was so afraid of being shady or being kind of sarcastic in a humorous way, because if I was, then I was afraid that I would get this backlash, right? And the backlash would be like, people would say, well, Peter, you preach kindness, you preach compassion, but now you're being shady and you're being sarcastic, right? Like, you can't do that. Like, somebody that preaches kindness and compassion can't also have a little shade that they throw out there from time to time, right? Which I think is completely inaccurate and untrue. And so I wouldn't do that. Well, now I've started to do that. Now I've started to be a little sassy, a little shady, a little sarcastic. I've started to stand up for myself. I've started to address things that I don't like. You know, I've started to address when people want to paint a narrative that is not true, okay? And I'm starting to get comments on my videos where there are a few people that are saying things like, Peter, I'm like really worried about you. Are you okay? Like, you seem really angry. Like, in the last few videos that you've made, you seem really angry. I don't know how I seem in those videos. I'm sure I seem passionate. I'm sure I seem heated. I'm sure I seem empowered. Okay, but let's not confuse empowerment and passion with anger. Okay, at all. Because I can be passionate about something and feel very heated, and I can feel empowered about something, but that doesn't make me angry. I don't feel angry. I feel liberated is what I feel. I feel empowered and I feel liberated and I feel good and I'm happy today, right? And it reminds me of years ago. So for those of you that don't know, there was a period of my sobriety where I stopped going to meetings. It was shortly after my mom passed away, and then it was like the first couple years that my husband and I were together, and then I had kind of like break down and contacted my best friend Tanya and asked her if she would take me to a meeting. I was literally like in that kitchen right there writing a note for the day of things I needed to do. Laundry, vacuum, blah, blah, blah. And I got to like the third or fourth thing and I just lost it. I just started crying. To this day, I don't even know what it was. If it was just how mundane my life was, or that I just like, I couldn't even grasp these simple things that I had to do. Like I couldn't even make sense of just the simple chores of my life seemed so overwhelming to me because I was so irritable, restless, and discontent in my life, which is a recovery thing that we say. I had no happiness, I had no emotional sobriety, I had no spiritual foundation in my life, and I was so miserable. I was so miserable on a daily basis, which I see a lot in the people that, you know, make very negative comments. I like, the first thing I always see, and I do have compassion for this, is that they're very miserable people that consume themselves with the misery of other people, right? Or making other people's lives miserable. And so, since they have a hard time taking a look at the misery of themselves, and listen, okay, for those of you out there that are watching this that don't like me, that want to say, well, isn't that what you do on your drama channel? I'm a drama commentary channel, okay? I have 6 channels. And on my other 5 channels, that's not who I am. So that's not a fair comparison. On my drama commentary channel, I do commentary on public figures and YouTube figures, okay? When I turn off my camera, I go on and I live my life. I go to the pool with my neighbors, I hang out with my husband, I hang out with my friends, I go to meetings, I read listen to audiobooks, I watch TV shows, I watch movies and things like that. No, I'm not consumed 24 hours a day with the misery of other people at all, okay? But at that time in my life, I was very miserable. I had no happiness in my life. And so I started going back to meetings. Tanya took me to a meeting that night, and I've shared the story in a lot of my other channels. If you guys want me to share the whole thing about how this was like a life-changing moment for me, I have no problem doing that. And I actually just shared part of this, I think on my Peterson's channel yesterday, or on my vlog yesterday, I was talking about this. So I went to a meeting, and then I started going back to a lot of meetings. But at that time, like, I didn't really, like, I was so numb from having lost my mom, and I don't know that I ever really grieved it appropriately in those years that I was gone going to meetings. And so at first when I started coming back to meetings, I just was very quiet. I didn't really know what to say. And I was listening to a lot of online leads, which is, an online lead is when somebody, well, a lead is when somebody shares their story of what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now with their addiction and their recovery. We call that a lead in 12-step programs. And there's a lot of different resources online, even YouTube has them, where you can listen to people share their stories. And so I would listen to these stories, and I was listening to this woman's story, and she was talking about how every day when she would go to a meeting, there was somebody that would come up to her and ask her, are you okay? And she'd say, yeah, I'm fine. And fine stands for effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. That's kind of the what's the word I'm looking for? Why can't I think of it? Shoot. Oh, God, not the analogy, not the, what's the word? The A word I'm looking for. You know what I'm talking about, right? But it also stands, an acronym. It also stands for other things as well, but that's the one that I always remember, right? And as I was listening to this, and she said that, like, there was a day that she went to this woman or the person asked her, and she said, I'm not doing okay at all. And that was the moment that everything changed for her, when she was able to be honest with herself. Well, there was a woman that every day at the noon meeting that I was going to would ask me, how are you doing? And I'd say, oh, I'm fine, I'm good, or whatever. And I was dying inside. I was literally dying inside, you know? And so when I heard that lead, I made a commitment to myself that the next time that I saw this woman and she asked me, I was going to be honest with her, and I was going to say, I'm not doing okay. And that happened, and she sat down and talked to me, and that was the moment that things started changing for me. And that was the moment that I started coming into meetings and being honest about missing my mom and being angry at God, and sharing about how I was just so angry in my life, and I felt betrayed by people, and I didn't know what had happened, right? That was the moment that I started becoming healthy in my life. That was the moment that I started becoming a different person and growing and changing. That was the moment that I started setting limits and boundaries in my life. That was the moment that I started removing toxicity from my life. And anybody that brought toxicity, chaos, negativity, or misery into my life, I started getting rid of. You know, I've talked about this a lot on my Peterson's channel. Like, I gave them fair warning. I would say to those people, I'm changing and I'm growing, and I need to have people around me that are changing and growing too. I need to be around people that are positive, because I can fall very much into the negative and the toxic if I'm around people that are negative and toxic. And I want you to be positive, but, like, I'm seeing this a lot, and I'm doing this a lot, and I can't be around that, right? So there was over a period of time that I started setting limits and boundaries for people. And like people would call me up and they would say, you know, like they would start going into me, and I'd say, I can't have this conversation right now. This is too negative for me. Like I can't be around it. And their immediate response would be, well, what's wrong? You seem really angry. Like you don't seem like yourself these days. Is something going on? And then I would get off that phone call and I'd get in my head and I'd be like, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I really angry? Like, what's going on? I would start second guessing myself, you know? Or I would say to people, like, you know, I don't want to go out to lunch and have an hour-and-a-half conversation where literally it's you complaining because you can't afford a $20,000 flooring that you want for your house. Like, to me, like, let's practice gratitude. Let's be happy, you know? What's wrong? Like, we used to have conversations like this all the time. Yes, because I tolerated them. And I sat there and listened to them and I was a good friend, okay? And then they would say, well, what's wrong? You're a different person today. You're changed. You're not the same person that you used to be. You seem really angry today. And then I would get in my head and I would start second guessing myself. And what happened was, over a period of a couple years, I started removing people that were negative, that were miserable, that were toxic, and that brought chaos into my life. I didn't want it in my life anymore. Which is one of the reasons why I have very few people in my life today. The people that I have in my life today, you know, I'm not saying that they don't have chaos or negativity in their life, but when they bring it to me or when we talk about it and we share those things with each other, you know, we either vent to each other and say, hey, I just need somebody to listen to me for a couple minutes, and I listen, and they go, thank you so much, I appreciate that. And then we laugh and we have good times as well. You know, it's not to say that we don't share deep things with each other or troubling times, okay? Or they ask for solutions or I ask them for solutions. But it's not a one-sided relationship where that person is constantly bringing toxicity and negativity into my life. And I had a lot of friendships like that. I had a lot of relationships like that in my life. And I'm probably at times where that was that way with other people as well, which is why they exited my life on their terms at certain times. And I had to take a look at that as well and see, wow, was I toxic at times? Was I bringing chaos and misery to people? Was I making it all about me? But the reason that I'm making this video was because as I start to change on YouTube and as I start to stand up for myself, I'm getting some comments where people are like, are you okay? You seem really angry. Like, this is a different side of you I just want to make sure you're okay. And I think that they truly mean it. Like, I think that they truly, many of them are like, I'm really worried. Like, this is a side of Peter that I've never seen before. I don't think that they mean anything negative or manipulative about it, okay? But it reminds me, this is why I'm making the video, of when I started setting healthy limits and boundaries in my life, when I started to change, when I started to grow as a human being, and I started to accept responsibility for the actions of my life and clean up the wreckage of my past, when I started to have to set limits and boundaries with people that were no longer healthy in my life, they got in my head and they started making me question setting those limits and boundaries by saying things like, are you angry? Or you've changed, or you're different today, or you're not the same person that you are. And so what it made me think was, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I not thinking the same way? Blah, 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 whatever. Had I had somebody at the same time, which, you know, now I've had those conversations with like my friend Tanya, my sponsor, other people that have said things to me like, yep. When I set limits, like my friend Tanya has said to me many times, when I started setting boundaries with people, healthy boundaries, all of a sudden I was the bitch. All of a sudden they're like, wow, you're being a bitch. I mean, she said those exact words to me, right? But they didn't want me standing up for myself because they wanted to keep me in a little box. They wanted to keep me in a box where then they could manipulate me and have that relationship be the way that they wanted it to be, you know? And I look at that and I'm like, that is so true, you know? That's not a healthy relationship. That's not a healthy relationship when somebody needs or expects you to respond a certain way, okay? That they can only have you be a certain way, that they don't want you to grow and change. And I have to also say this, you know, that like, I have met my fair share of people in early sobriety that when they start going to meetings and they start getting sober and working with a sponsor and working steps and things like that, if that's how they choose to stay sober, that their partners or their friends will say things to them like, let's say if they're going to a meeting, right, on what is tonight, Saturday, on a Saturday night, they'll say, do you have to go to a meeting tonight? Like, you've been going to these meetings a lot. Like, maybe you shouldn't go to these meetings as much anymore. They start being threatened by the fact that their partner or their spouse or their friend or family member is getting healthy. Like, there's something threatening to them about that, whether they use on their own or whether they're afraid of the positive changes that that person's going to make, because we have to grow and change with people in relationships, right? Like, we have to. I'm aware of that as well. When my friends are growing and changing around me, I have to grow and change with them, or that relationship's going to become stagnant. But I'm in a new era of my life. I'm in an era where I'm not going to take people's BS anymore. I'm definitely not going to continue to have my life, I'm not going to live silently while people make my life miserable. I'm not going to do that anymore. And if I feel the need to speak up about it, I will. But I have the right as a human being, and I have the right to set healthy limits and boundaries in my life with people that I do not believe that are healthy for my life. And so do you. And don't let those people make you second guess your life and make you second guess your decisions of setting healthy limits and boundaries and make you think to yourself, am I crazy? Am I angry? Should I not be doing this? Should I not be doing that? Maybe I need to go back to my old ways. Maybe I just need to sit there and listen for an hour and a half while they complain about the fact that they can't afford a $20,000 new floor. You know, maybe I need to listen to them complain about the fact that they have these majestic, amazing lives and they can't find one thing that they're grateful for. Maybe I need to surround myself with all this negativity because that's what's comfortable for me. Because changing and growing and setting boundaries and limits is not comfortable at all for ourselves and for the people around us, and they don't like it. And, you know, some of those people will change and grow with us. Some of those people it will be uncomfortable for a while, and then they'll accept the new people that we've become. And we're going to continue to grow and change over time, you know? I love the scene in the movie Texasville, which is the sequel to The Last Picture Show. And Annie Potts is in the bedroom, and her husband, Jeff Daniels, walks into the room, and he says something about, you seem different today. And she said, women change moment to moment, minute to minute, every single day, and you don't even realize it. Well, I think that's true of humans. I think we all change constantly. We're constantly changing and growing and evolving, right? And to be a really good friend or a good family member is to be alongside that person and to encourage them to continue to change and grow. Not to be fearful of their change and growth and wanted to put a stop to it, okay? And that's what many people tried to do in my life. And those people are not in my life today. It didn't work. I set those healthy limits and boundaries for myself, and I continue to grow and change as a human being, and I'm thankful for it. And I'm thankful for the few friends that I do have today that are trustworthy, that are loyal, that want me to grow and change, that challenge me to grow and change, that love me unconditionally, but don't put up with my BS, and I don't put up with theirs at times. And we joke with each other, and we laugh with each other, and we cry with each other, and we share moments of our lives. You know, I'm grateful for that. And if I become chaotic or anything at certain times, or if they do, that we can take that to each other and we can go, wow, I didn't even realize it. I don't want to be that person in your life. Let me work on that. Can you help me with that? Yes. You know? And I'm so grateful for that today. I'm so grateful to have a group of people around me that encourages me to be the best person that I can be in my entire life. And I'm so grateful to be able to be a part of other people's lives and be part of their journey as well. It's powerful. But don't let anybody tell you, okay, that you changing and growing is not the right thing to do. Because that's the ultimate goal in this life, is to change and grow and be an example to other people of what an amazing life we have. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys today, because I've been thinking a lot about that since I got some of those comments on my video, and I just wanted to talk about that today. So anyway, I hope that at least one person out there is like, wow, like this is what I'm going through, or this is what I went through. Thank you, I needed to hear this. I hope at least one person this message spoke to you, because if it spoke to just one person, then that's all that was needed to be done with this video. Then this video served its purpose. And thank you so much for listening to me. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.